We're going to do a quick demonstration of how to resolder the CO2 leads if you're having trouble with your CO2 sensor. So I've already taken out the 4 black screws that hold the panel in place, and after that all I have to do is flip it over, and this is what I'll be concentrating on today. This is the CO2 MCO sensor box pass-through board, and this is what we're going to be resoldering. There's probably just 1 or 2 bad joints on it. So first I'll take my clippers and clip the wire tie. I want to be careful that I don't damage any wires while I'm clipping it. Oop, not enough. There we go. So that gives me room to spread them out, and you can see you should have had a wiring diagram included with your sensor box, but I'll include one in the email to you just in case you don't have a current copy. These 3 wires are the ones we'll be resoldering today. They're the ones that power and control the signal from the CO2. That's the green and white, the purple and white, and the purple wire. And to do this, to unsolder them, it's pretty darn easy. You just get your solder iron hot if it's plugged in. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these out by touching the soldering iron to the solder joint until it heats up, and then I can pull it free. So I'm just going to do that with these 3. It'll take a while. Then it goes molten. Take it out. Alright. So the next step I'm not going to show you because I didn't bring my soldering iron down, my desolderer down. But what you'll do is you'll heat this solder up again and get your desolderer, and actually once it's heated up you'll remove it. So that could be a solder wick or a squeeze pump to help you suck that solder away. So you get it hot, and once it's hot you suction it away really quickly, and that'll clear that hole out of solder. And after you've got these 3 holes free, you're going to take either a razor blade or something like maybe a paper clip, and you'll stick it in these 3 holes and scrape any gunk out. What you're trying to do is get rid of any glue that may be stuck in this hole after you remove the solder. So this one I've already done that with, so it's good to go. And all you really have to do is resolder these 3 wires back in after you clean the solder out and then scrape the glue out from inside the hole. And then to make sure, and then you just want to resolder them, making sure you may have a very good solder joint. So one thing you'll want to do is make sure that these wires are nice and clean. These guys are, but if you take yours out, you might find that they're a little bit dirty. And these guys actually seem like they've gotten a little bit desoldered, so I'm going to just re-tin them a bit and get them ready to go back in. So if they were dirty, what I would do is clip these off and then use a wire stripper to strip a little bit more bare wire. And then I'd do what I'm about to do here, which is tin these wires, put a little bit of solder on. So I've got my solder flux that hasn't been opened. So your solder flux might be clear, it might be liquid, it might be solid. Doesn't matter as long as you got something. And what you just do is before you solder anything, you're going to paint this on or dip the wires in if it's solid, and that just helps the solder melt a little bit better. So get a little solder. It's going to be a little hard just because the wires are, there we go. And heat this up. Just tin that wire. See how it's nice and shiny now? I just want them nice and I've got a nice clean coat of solder before I keep going, so that we make sure we make a good solder joint. So now that they're re-tinned, they're ready to go in. But before we do that, remember we're about to make another solder joint. So what we're going to do is coat them a little bit more with some more flux, because that old flux just burnt off. And one thing that I'm not going to show you here, because these holes are already filled up with solder, but if you've been following the instructions, what you've done is you've cleaned these holes out, you've cleaned whatever gunk is out in them, and now what you're going to want to do is fill them back up with new solder. So before you solder these wires, you want to make sure that these 3 holes are all full up with solder. They don't have any holes in them. So after you've finished soldering these 3 wires, make sure you re-put the zip tie on to keep it nice and neat. And that's really all there is to it. Then you're done. If you have any other questions, just contact me and we'll make sure it gets working if that doesn't do the trick.